Hey, welcome back. So everybody seems to have loved the heart-shaped box. Like, this is actually the original, so it's a heart-shaped kind of you know, little box or little basket, you know, for little cute things. Really good for Valentine's. And then I made one, so this is the same size as this one, right? And I made a lid which is one row less. There you go. And that makes a nice little gift box. And so there were quite a few people who have been asking how to make this, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to show everybody, right? So this is what we're making today, and this is using the Windmill Knot. And for those of you who already know how to do this, this will be really, really easy and straightforward, especially if you already know how to make a little bag, for instance. But if you don't worry about it. So what we are using for all of these is, in this instance, we're making it just green. So unlike the other two, we're just using one color because that's just what I had at the moment. And I'm using the Kamihimo Craft Paper again. And it comes, for those who don't know, who haven't watched any of the other videos that we're talking about this. So it comes, I've already cut it down. So the rolls, I mean, obviously that's just the last little bit of it. So there's 15 meters of this craft paper in each pack. And then there's also in it the instructions on how to make this basket here. That's on the front with very nice, lovely, detailed instructions. And that also, and I love this, explains at the beginning what this paper is actually about. So it's not just paper. And I might just move this away so it's easier to see. Because what it is paper ropes, essentially, recycled paper ropes, and they, under high pressure, glued together. And if you look closely, you can just about see those little lines. And so the individual paper rolls, and when we in this type of weaving talk about 12 strand or 6 strand or 8 strand or something, so we're talking about that many individual strands, you know, like if it's half, like in this case we're using 6. So what we need to do in this case is we need to split. So this is 12, we need to split it into 2 in this case. And the easiest way I found, I mean, I've tried all kinds of things. So I made myself a little tool, and it's just a homemade, easy little tool. That's a paper clip. And I just open it up and put the 2 ends together and put a band-aid at the bottom so I can put my finger in it, like so. And I use that end up here at the top to split it. And I've already, I go to the measurements in a minute, but I've already cut these, pre-cut these. And the box wants 6 strips wide. And so I count them. So if you look at this, so I count how many we've got. So, you know, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Make a little, with a nice little sharp scissor. I love this one. Get it at the warehouse, actually. Make a little cut. Obviously, when it's short, you can cut all the way. But if it's long, or even longer than this, that's not feasible, because you might, you know, don't go straight. So what I do is then, in this little cut that I made, if you see that, I put my little tool, and so hold it on one side and just keep pulling. There you go. And that way I split the 12 strands into 2 6-strand widths. And I do this with all of those for this particular project. Sometimes we use 2 strands or 3 or 4. So that's how you do it. And for this project, and I put the numbers somewhere, in a minute. For this project, we need 10 strips. 10 strips at 75 centimeters long. Now, I actually don't need 75 centimeters. I can do with 70 because I know how the windmill knot works. But if you're just starting out and this is your first project, do yourself a favor and use the 75 centimeters. And we need 10 of them. 10 of those. And then we also need 3 weaving strips. And they are longer. So let's just demonstrate. Hang on. So here we go. So for the 10 at the base, that's the bottom, basically here. So that's what we use them for. And the weaving strips in this instance are the ones that going around and around and around. So we're making this size, so we need 3, because we're going 3 high, 3 weaving strips. And they need to be 130 centimeters long. And then depending if we want to make a handle or not, we will need some extras. But I think for the purpose of this tutorial, we just leave the handle out and just make the box, as it were, because that in itself is already, for most people, would be sufficient. And obviously, if you want to make it a little like lid like this, then you would only need 2 of those weaving strips at 130 centimeters and make it a little bit shorter. But we make the tutorial with this. Hello, come on, just turned off by itself. So I'll start again. If you know the windmill knot, this will be easy. If you don't, keep watching. So we have our strips and I halved them. And at the halfway mark, I made a little crease like so, just so I know where the middle is, right? So we're starting with 2 of those. Open one up. Put one across like so, really straightforward. So we have one going from left to right and one kind of hooking onto it, as it were. And then I find it easier to turn it, but it's up to you really. You don't have to do it that way. And there are a couple of different ways of doing it, and I've learned a different way originally, but I find this one easier. So if you've seen one of my older videos, I've shown one where I sort of folded around the finger, and that's the way I originally learned, but this seems to be easier. Anyway, so I hooked this one on here, and then the bottom one of these 2 strips, as it were, sort of loosely, with a nice little loop, folds back up parallel to the original one. Right, and try and hold them in place. And then this one here folds more or less on itself, like so. And then you bring it down from the bottom and over this one and through the loop. Okay, there we go. Don't get this one tangled up in it. And then you pull it nice and tight and pull the other one tight too, and until you have them nice and tight. So that's your first windmill. That's where the name comes from. Okay, and what you do is, I do, and it helps for some projects like this, or for certain bags and so on, to make a little note, or you put a bit of tape on it or something, so you know where your middle is, because sometimes you can get lost in which direction you're going, and then it's always good to know where the middle originally was. So the middle is there, and then we're grabbing our next strip, half it again, here we go, half it, green on green background isn't so ideal, make a little fold it over the one going in that direction, like so, right next. Keep it as close as you can to the original knot. Hold your finger on it. The one from underneath comes up parallel to the original. There you go. Fold this one down nice and tight. Bring this one up to the front. Hold the end through the loop. Pull tight. I zoom in for the next one. So now we've got 2. One more. And I normally do this in my lap, so it's you know, closer to me. I have more control over it. So there we go. Press again. I zoom in a little bit. There you go. So this is what it looks like at the moment. Pull this one over the side, like so. Grab the bottom one. Fold it parallel. There you go. Fold it parallel, nice and close to the original. Fold it down. It's really easy to fold, and you can really squish it if you like. Bring that strip up over this one and through the loop. There we go. And then pull that one tight. There you go. Not too tight. Right, so we've got 2. Turn it around. If you're unsure, you can always turn it over and have a look where your original mark is. Sorry. There it is. And then we put another 2 on that side in similar fashion. So grab it, middle, make a little crease like that, bring it over, fold it up, there you go. This one folds down, like really just with the finger like this. Bring it up to the front, through the loop. Oopsala. Try and keep it all in the same. Don't try and twist it. And fold up. Nice and tight. Okay. Makes sense. One more. Here we go. Over, fold it up, fold it down, bring it to the front and through the loop. Alright, pretty straightforward. Kind of love it. So this is what it looks like at the moment from the front. And if we turn it over, this is what it looks like on the back. So the middle one is right there. Hope that makes sense. And then what we need to do is we need to add on another row. And I typically add the next row above the original one, but you know, it can easily be done underneath. But you need to commit to one direction, one way or another. So in this case, it's easier, you know, because you're already there, to add the next row there. And in adding another row, so we can't do half, because half wouldn't work. What we do instead is, we'll have a look on the side, how far we are, and we measure on the side, and then make our kink there, because we are adding on this side. So similar to before, we just add it in, like so, right? Same thing, bring this one to the front, alright, like so. Fold that one down, bring it forward and through the loop. And there we have the start of our second row. However, now we don't add on another one because we already got this one here. So now we're using this existing strip and make the rest of this row full. And to do that, we want to make the holes as square as we can. Now, if I grab the original and zoom in a little bit, so we want to make these little holes, okay? In order to do that, so you lay it nice and parallel, not like this, not like that, nice and parallel. See how it's laying? It forms a square anyway. And then you twist it behind, like so. Bring it to the front. Same thing as before. Make a little loop and place it next to the original one. So then you fold this one down. And now, of course, you can't just bring it over and under. So now you need to thread it through this hole. Through this hole there. So hold it with your, whatever that is, finger and thumb. Poke it through, pull it, and it does help if you press it first. Here we go. Up nicely, give it a squish, like so, through the hole, like that. And then all you need to do is pull this one. Nice and tight. And there's your second knot. Okay, again, you want to make a square, holding it, folding it over like so, bring it to the front, make a nice little loop, right, like so. Fold that one down. Try and find it, pull it through the hole, There we go, and through the little loop and pull the loop. Right, so we finished that row, and then we do the same thing again for another row. And then I'll see you again. Rightio, welcome back. So this is what it should look like now. So we've got 3 rows of windmill knots, and so the middle one, or the first one, should be this one. So if we turn it over, you can see there's our little, and the reason why this is important, if we were to look at the size or the length difference between this side and that side, you see that these are much longer. So if we were to continue now with this, we could, but then we're running out of length on that side. So that's why we turn it over, we know our middle is there, and now we're starting adding on again another 2 rows. Rightio, welcome back. So we've done our 2 extra rows, right, of 5 knots, and the original starting point is this one here. And I know this because if I turn it over, there's my little mark that I made on it. Okay, so and so the mark is there, right? So now I've turned it essentially upside down, and the reason for that is, if I were to continue on one side, I would run out of length of these eventually, and then it's sort of haven't got enough room to weave the sides up. So if we're looking at the original, so if well, use this one, the higher one. So if I were to continue and then suddenly I won't have enough length, as it were, to finish the top here. So that's why we're turning it around and continuing on the other side. But we also do this in order to get that heart shape. So now we're doing the same thing. We're adding another 2 rows of knots, but we only go up to knot number 3. So 1, 2, 3. And hang on, there we go. And again, we measure the side. There you go. So it's sort of roughly in the same. Turn it over. In like so. Right. The bottom one comes up. This one folds down. There we go. Through, pull tight. There we go. So another 2 and then another, my last strip. So up to 3, and then you will already see, so basically what we're doing is, so these are those 3. So if you look at them side by side, so these 3 rows, these 3, this block here is this block here. So now we're adding up 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and that is already our heart shape. Rightio. So looking already a little bit like a heart, doesn't it? So if you look next to each other, so there you go. So you got the base is pretty much done. So now what we need to do is we need to do the corners and the big hexagonal kind of shape in the middle, and then pull the sides up. So now we're going around the sides. In order to do that, first what we do is we fold all of these upwards. Rightio, all are up now. Now we're using one of our larger pieces, our longer pieces. I think it was 130 or 140. And you know, about yay much, 7 centimeters or so. I don't really measure it, I just know, you know, that will be enough for me. Fold at the back, like so. And we want to add these weaving strips in, so these side ones here. We want to add them on the long side, so not on the corners and not on the short ones. So we add them in on either of those sides. It just gives a little bit more stability. And if you've made one of those little windmill knot bags before, then this is fairly straightforward, easy to do. If you haven't, this may take a little bit of practice, and the first one might be a little bit wonky, but this first row is always the hardest. After that, we just follow what has been done before. So we add, I usually do it in the middle, so I'm using the middle one. Add this one in like so, the short bit facing me. Okay. Just pull this, otherwise the camera just always tries to focus on those ends. Sorry about that. Add it in, and just like before we did with the other add-ins, there we go. Lay it behind, fold it back, bring it to the front and through the loop. There we go. So that's our first knot, and don't worry about it if it doesn't sort of face up yet. We will shape it eventually as well. So now we're going up to the corner, so that's another 2 knots, and we try and keep the square as we did beforehand down here. There you go. I know I make it look easy, and it will become easier, trust me. Through there. Squash. Bring it. And next one. There we go. You can be fairly kind of brutal. Alright, so now we're on the corner. So basically where we're going from that direction into that direction. And in order for this to be an actual corner, we're going from a square to a triangular shape. I'll zoom in a little bit, hopefully you can see this. So we're going from a square, see, there's a square, and then suddenly, see there's a triangle. And that's in all of the corners. So if we turn it around, see there as well, there's a little triangle. There's a little triangle. Yeah. So, and here on the front as well. So that's what we're aiming for, a little triangle. And to achieve that, oops, sorry, we're in the wrong spot. We bring these two sides, so these two knots where we're having the join, bring them together, and if you bring them together like so, you can already see there's a little triangle forming, right? And like this, try and hold it. May need a little bit more manipulating, because this is the long strip. There you go. You see that? So there's your little triangle. This one goes in, and now that's the fiddly part, getting that strip through that triangle. Sometimes you need to loosen it up a little bit. There you go. Pull it tight up through the hole. Give it a squish and pull. And there is your first little corner, as it were. The next one is a normal square again. See? Normal square. Through the hole. There we go. Up. Through. Another square. So this is our short side, as it were. And now we're coming to the next corner. So on the original, so we just done this one. Hang on, let's zoom out a bit. So we done this first. So we started here, over here, corner. Now we've done two squares, and now we're coming to the next corner. Same as before. Bring these two sides together. Already form a little triangle if you can. In. There we go. Parallel to the before. Squash this one through. Try and get it through that gap. Sometimes it's a little tricky, especially when there's not much space there. There we go. I always give it a little bit of a, I don't know how to say this. You know, I give it a kink before I put it through. It seems to make it easier. And give it another little squish and then pull. And so now we've got one corner, two corners. And on the heart shape, now we're coming to the tricky bit. So we are at the moment here. So we're doing another square. And then we're coming up to this hexagonal shape. so now we're trying to get from this side over to this side, from that square onto that square, and that is where the hexagon comes in. Yeah, right in the middle, so that's the larger hole there. Okay, and in essence it's the same thing as before, so we just try and marry those two up like so, and continue with our knots. There we go. Pull through the hole. There we go. Oh, not a little bit too tight. And now you can see that larger hole there. You can see. There you go. Then another square. And the next corner. Right. If you want, you can already manipulate this to pull all of these upright if you want. So it makes it easier for that next corner. So there you go, next corner, triangle again. There you go. Sorry, my hands are sometimes in the way, I noticed. I'll try to get them out of the way. There we go. Right, so I continue all the way around until I reach the end, and then I'll show you how we kind of combine the two ends. Rightio, almost done. Just need to join the two sides. Go out a little bit. And for that, so here they come together, and I know it's hard to see with the so many strips. So these two here. Try and see. So these two here, that's the old one, and that's the, or what are they? The starting one, and this is the end one. So what I tend to do is I loosen this one up a little bit here, thread this one through. There we go. Alright, and then tighten this up again. Right, and then on the inside, hang on, let's just turn these over so you can see better. So this one is the short one, and I just tuck this in under two of the inside ones. So hang on a second. So I tuck this one in through here. Right, number one. There you go. And it's a little bit trickier on the corner sometimes. There you go. And number two. Okay, pull. Just making sure that we pull it nicely. Alright, so this is tucked in. And then this one that we just threaded through, this first one, bring it to the back, or to the inside rather. There you go. And also tuck this in here and there. So one, and pull nicely tight, and twice. There you go. And then we can cut these ends off right away, because that makes it easier later on. And at the moment I've got like this sort of longish piece left, and I'll keep these. And I sometimes make little flowers out of it, or you know, sometimes you need small pieces for something else. So I keep these, and I've got a big bag of it. So because this material is comparatively expensive, even though we don't have to make it, but we shouldn't waste anything anyway. So there you go. And now what you do is you can shape it, and you can see the heart shape sort of taking shape, as it were. There you go, like this. There you go. So now we just add another 2 rows in the same fashion. The only difference is we don't have to make this big hole here or these triangular. We just going around and around and making squares. So grab another piece. There we go. And ideally we don't start on the same place that we started on before. So before, or the first time, and you can always check this on the inside where you tucked in if you're unsure. So this is where we started the first time, so this is this long side. So now I'm starting on the other long side, and then in the last row I start again on this side. So they're alternating. Otherwise, I mean, for these small things it's not super important, but if you have something that is maybe weight bearing, you know, those larger bags that I sometimes make, and then it's important that you don't have the join in the same spot, because that would make it a weak spot. So same as before, add it in, short side up. There you go, short side up. Parallel, fold the back one down, bring it underneath both. Bring it up and through the loop. Yeah, like so. Pull, 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 pull. Done. And from now on we do the same process with the tucking in through the square hole. So line it up parallel. Fold. Fold again parallel on top of each other. Fold this one down, so that's what it looks like now. Push this one through the hole. There we go. And through the loop. Squish it. Hold. Pull. Sorted. There you go. So that's your side. So go around, another round, finish off like before, and then another round, finish off like before, and then I'll see you again. Right here. So we can already shape this. So this is all done, right? So 3 rows high. I tend to, that's just me, where there are corners, I give it a bit of a squeeze already. We will deal to this further once we've finished, but it sort of helps, you know, to kind of get the shape right. So the next thing is we need to tuck these ends in, and then pretty much we're at this stage. So more or less done. We finish this one off for time being by tucking these ends in. And we're tucking them in. I'll see if I can get these out of the way so you can see better. Hang on, I'll just fold them all back. That's the problem. And you can tell, see, there's a couple of they're slightly longer. Now, I've kept the original measurements for this video just to make it easier. But if you do know me, then you know that I'm a stickler for trying to avoid waste. And it started, that's how my whole YouTube journey started, is that I wanted to minimize waste when I made a video about a wahakura. and, you know, working out where can I save length. So in this case, and I left it so it's easier for you if you haven't made anything like this before, because getting your head around other numbers might be a little bit too tricky. No, but for demonstration purposes, so I turn this around, right? So if we turn it like this, so this is how we started, right? So we've made that bit first, if you remember, right at the beginning. So we've done 3 rows of 5. And then we only did 3 here, and obviously 3 there. Now, and those strips correspond with these 4 that are now longer. So because we are using less lengthwise, right, obviously the length is well, you know, they are longer. So we could reduce the length. And the easiest way to do it, if you want to go down that road, and that's what I used to do at the beginning. So this is pretty much average, these ones here, right? And these ones are quite a bit longer. So what I'll do is I measure, so it's around about 5 to 6 centimeters. You know, if I kind of go from 5 to 6, somewhere around here, and then measure what's left over, which is about 15. So I could make 4 of these strips 15 centimeters shorter than the rest of them. But then you got to remember, keep them separate. Now I'm confusing a lot of people, I think. Then you need to remember to keep them separate, and you need to start them slightly differently as well, because then the whole measuring on the side won't work either. So you need to really be knowing where you're going with this. And that's why I didn't show it, because it's a little bit more involved. So what happens is you will have, you know, that much longer leftovers, and you can use them for something else instead. So it's not waste as such. I just thought I mention, because there's bound to be questions why these 4 are longer than the rest of them. So that's the explanation, because we're using less. However, for this one, all we need to do now is tuck these ends in, and we don't tuck them in on the same. I zoom in a little bit. So when I put it sideways, hang on, take these out of the way. So we don't tuck them in on the same one, we tuck them in on an angle, like through that. I hope I can get it without the camera going all fuzzy. Here we go. Tuck it in like so. Here we go. Next one. And because this is such a shallow basket, we only tuck them in once. When we make big, longer baskets or anything like that, we tuck them in twice. But in this instance, once is enough. So it gives you enough room to cut them off. So we do all that. And then we cut the ends off on an angle, like right there. And then our basket is done. And I'll see you at the end. There you go. So they're all tucked in. Right? Can see, and now all we need to do is cut the ends off, and I tend to pull them a little, so when I pull them out of here and cut them off, then they will retract a little bit underneath the other strip, and that makes them kind of invisible. Excuse me. And the last thing we do is spray them with a spray bottle. So I do this off camera, of course, you know, because I don't want to get my nice table wet. But basically, I'll just give it a nice spray. And that's the beauty about this. Being paper, you think, oh no, you can't get it wet. Yes, you can. There we go. So this is nice and wet now. And this is when we do all the shaping, and you can hear it. I hope you can hear it. It makes a completely different sound. And this is when I really shape it again. Any of these windmill kind of baskets get shaped when they're wet. It kind of, you know, makes it easier, and you can still manipulate it a little bit. And there we go. How do we like that? You know, can it bring in a little bit more? Make it rounder or make it squarer, kind of thing. So if you look from the back, it looks pretty square. From top, it looks very round. And that's pretty much it. So we could leave it at that, and that would already make a wonderful little gift. You know, so you can kind of, you know, let it dry like this, and then it becomes as solid as this one. So, and if you make a second one, even if it's one that is a little bit shallower like this, then you have a lid on top of it. Or you can just leave it like that. Or you can, like I mentioned, put a handle on it. And the handle is really just another strip thread through and glued on. Actually, it's sort of doubled up and glued on. And then we use a 3 wide, which is sort of about this width, and bind the handle so it looks nice. But that's about it. But I actually find that without the little handle, I think they're much more versatile, because then you can, you know, as I said, put a lid on it and use it as a little gift box, perhaps, or, you know, or put some sweets in it or something along those lines. So, and also, you know, you're saving material, as it were, if you don't put a handle on. But, you know. So there you have it, a heart-shaped container box.